Sometimes it seems that I can go back the days. Hold on. I tried to scream, but no one even hears. Hold on. You gotta hold on. You gotta hold on.
Shaun DeGraff.
Hello.
Thank you so much for talking with me. This is your studio?
Yeah, this is the studio. Okay, it's very small, and you don't need a whole lot anymore. You know,
It's nice though.
I got this is a great thing to have an external monitor for a lot of your stuff. You can visualize, and just a keyboard and a couple of mixing speakers. Really, honestly, that's all you need anymore.
I met you at the Palms a long time ago.
Earth Rising.
It was before Earth Rising. It was
Really?
It was Brother Luke days. Were you doing Dueling Pianos back then when I met you? That was, I don't know what year that was. That must have been 2004.
4 or 5, like.
4 or 5, yeah.
I wasn't doing dueling then. I was that was like a magical period of about 2 years where I was just living and breathing original music, which was good times.
Those were different times.
Yeah. I suppose you have to pay for the electric bill at some point.
Tell me about Brother Luke.
I kind of combined looping with a live drummer. At one point, like I had 3 drummers. Like I was just infatuated with adding live rhythm to the loops. I did a couple shows in LA with like 3 drummers and just me. So that was like loop artist plus drums. And I played the keyboards. So I just like to switch sounds. I'm really a sound guy when it comes to looping. I have like different sounds, and if you close your eyes, you would think there was a lot of instruments going on, but it's really just a keyboard.
How did you get from Brother Luke to Dueling Pianos?
Well, like we said, at some point you just go, I got to make some money, and it sort of fit my personality in the sense that I enjoyed it a lot because it was a lot of fun. I mean, the environment was just like people really loved it. They just loved it. They loved to come out and I learned a lot from the Dueling Pianos in the sense that, it's us as artists, we really like to focus on ourselves, but when it comes to the Dueling Pianos, they'll say, hey, play this song, and then they have no idea who sings it or so I realized very quickly that it was all about the song and not about the artist. You know what I mean? It's people connect with the songs, and that's the thing about the Dueling Pianos. You have to memorize so many songs. So it took me a good solid 3-4 years before I was even like decent at Dueling Pianos. I was actually really intimidated by it as well, but I just came in and I saw the type of money they were making, and I was just like, man. So my philosophy was like, maybe I could make a balance of this whole thing. Maybe I could just do 2 or 3 days Dueling Pianos, and then I could focus on my original music without having to be so stressed out. It just was a matter of shutting off the artistic side of my brain. And you can only do that for so long, because I did it for 10 years and I really became an unhappy person because I started to do it. They start needing you over there and they start kind of pushing you to do it more. I did it good and I brought sort of like a new flavor that they needed, like a kind of updated version. I started to do it more days a week, and I just kept shutting off the artistic part part of my brain that says, you know, it's supposed to sound good, you know, because that's the last part of Dueling Pianos. That's the bottom of it, is that it has to sound good. Like,
Really?
yeah, that's the very, very last thing. Like,
Okay.
that's what blew me away. As long as you play people's song, they're just so happy because they see you giving to them. So you, instead of being an artist saying, hey, listen to my thing, you're just sort of giving yourself to them, and they appreciate that. But there's only so long you can do that, you know, before you just feel empty inside, and you just long for the days when you wanted to do what you want to do and what you feel and how you think. And I found myself getting so immersed into the dueling side of things to where I just started becoming very unhappy because I wasn't doing the artistic side. You know, it's really hard to balance is the hardest thing to find with everything, you know. I mean, you always strive for it, but you never really seem to hit it. But as long as you strive for it, I think, you know, you're better off than most people, you know.
You can be me.
I started my own band, which was still a cover band. This was before Postmodern Jukebox or anybody knew any of that. I was basically just taking cover songs and making rearranging the arrangements and like making them sound totally different and more musical in my opinion. And so I started to really enjoy that, even more so than songwriting at the time, because there was a real satisfaction playing a song that people rediscovered.
Tell us what the name of that band was.
It was the Shaun DeGraff band, and it just happened that way. I tried to maybe change the name, but we had started getting gigs, so we just kind of kept it. But anyway, SDB for short, SDB, the Shaun DeGraff band. And it just was fun. We wanted to, you know, it really stemmed from a trip to Jazz Fest in New Orleans that I took. And I realized that the essence of jazz is not this sleepy, cerebral music that it had evolved from jazz. At its essence, it was just so much fun. And when you go to New Orleans and you go to Jazz Fest, particularly the horn bands, the marching horn bands, I just was like, this is such a party. And so that was my mission, to create jazzy versions of pop songs that were fun. And so that's what I set out to do. And at the time, you know, the closest thing there was to that was Richard Cheese. So they kept saying that you guys are like Richard Cheese, and I was like, well, hopefully without the cheese, you know. It's just, hopefully it sounds good. And you know, I actually didn't mind. I understand the want to smile or even giggle when they go, oh wow, like this is Toxic by Britney Spears, holy crap. But then that's it. Like, I want them to now like go, wow, this sounds really good. You know, I don't want them to laugh the whole time. Maybe on a few of them, but I don't want them to laugh the whole time. I want them to just kind of go, oh wow, like the surprise of realizing what song it is. But yeah, it's, you know, it wasn't a comedy show.
Were you one of those kids that was always musical?
Yeah, I was. Music I think came, none of my family went that direction, but my family was very musical family, and I was the one who decided to just kind of keep pushing on it. But the first song I ever wrote was, the melodies came pretty easily, but it was mostly, I think, just I had something to say. You know, whether it was just about, you know, the way of the world, or, you know, it's just, I just felt it was a strong outlet to get what I was feeling out there, you know, instead of just talking about it. When, you know, I realized how much more powerful it can be when you put it, you know, in frequency mode. You know, I feel like music for artists, you know, is like an audio photo album for us. You know, we go back and we look at songs for us is like going back and looking at like pictures of you doing something stupid, and you just kind of go, oh God, you know. And I listen to it, and you can always say, wow, you know, I would. But it's yeah, it's endearing, and you go back. But the stuff now, I think, is still on a positive tip. But there's an element of been through some shit in there, and a little bit of more, I would say, you know, I'm actually going, as far as sound goes, like maybe into a little bit darker, actually, but and more accessible, because my early stuff, I did not care at all if I just wanted to experiment and try different things. And so if you listen to my old stuff, it's kind of sporadic, it's kind of all over the place, and in a way it's genius. However, because it's all over the place, I think a lot of people, it kind of was missed by a lot of people. Whereas my new stuff, I'm trying to keep it a lot more accessible for people to listen to it continuously, and so that's kind of my new stuff in a nutshell. I ended up kind of like veering into electronic EDM territory, just because I think it's one of the last music that's available now that has dynamics. Like, you know, I miss the dynamics of music. You know, music became such like, you know, groove orientated, where it just kind of hovered here and just kept going and didn't go anywhere. But I just miss the dynamics of music. I miss the breaking down of it and bringing it up, and then you know, and electronic music. And I just love the music, and it's synth orientated. So and I'm a keyboard player, so I get to do the sounds, you know. But I'm definitely focused on making pop electronic music to where it's very accessible. If somebody wanted to come along and use it as redo it as another song, like you said, if you were to take the song and sing it with just the piano, as a matter of fact, that's how I write every song. I sing it just the piano, and you know, and then I do the production around it. So if like you can strip them all down to the piano and vocals, and they'll still stand up, I think.
How are you getting through COVID, and how has the arts helped you get through it?
At first, you know, it's probably just like everybody else. At first, it was really scary. It wasn't really about anything other than making sure myself and you know, friends and family were okay, you know. But you know, we're at a place now where I feel like, you know, I can kind of map that things are going to be coming back at the top of the year, towards the middle of the year. They might be substantially back to normal, or somewhat back to normal by this time next year. And so I looked at it as an opportunity to get a lot of stuff done that you know, I didn't have time for before. And that's really what it comes down to. And I've had a lot of these songs written. I didn't produce them, because that's the time taker. It takes a lot of time to do that stuff. So I just been sitting in the studio and recording them. And you know, I really enjoy, and talking about this is a really good point to this, because I would advise, you know, every artist basically has to split their brain between the business and the artistic side. But I personally don't like to do them at the same time. I think it's really healthy to get yourself in the artistic brain and just record a bunch of material. Don't listen to a lot of other music, and just focus on being creative and musical. And then once you have some songs or something, then you know, we used to say an album, but not really anymore. But once you have some new songs, you can actually turn on your business brain, and then really just get out there and like push them, and just say, hey, here's my new library, here's my new songs. I think when you write with the intent, with those little things in the back of your brain that say, oh, well, this is not going to work for this, or this is, I don't know, for me, I don't particularly think that's necessarily helps the creative aspect of what you're doing. And if you don't, like I did with Dueling, and if you're just about the money, hey, you know, I get it, I understand. If you're just about, you know, wanting to make some money with your music, it's a different story. But for me, I like to have different times where I like, okay, now's the time to be very creative, lock yourself and just do your music. And then now let's take this work and turn on your business side of the brain and do that. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So the biggest problem I had with balance is that I was always looking for Zen. And Zen is one of those fleeting moments that maybe happens to people one or two times in their lifetimes. And so what the best advice I could give to people is always strive for balance and realize that it's never going to always be right there in the center. You might waver back and forth and just have this, back and forth, but as long as you're shooting for it, you don't get too far off. And that's the best advice I could give. It's helped me. So, people talk about doing what you love. Well, if you can figure out a way to make the most amount of money in the shortest period of time, so you have all this time left to do whatever the hell you want to do. To me, that was the aha moment that said, okay, because then I have all this time to spend being on Zoom with you, talking about my original music, putting my original music out there, promoting my original music. To me personally, you've made it. You're successful. Just as successful as Miley Cyrus when you can live and breathe your art, because that to me is really living. When you're just existing and being in the moment and creating art. Creation, if you think about it, is the closest thing to feeling larger than life, or feeling like a god, because gods create things. So it's like being creative, being in that creative mode. Never lose that, because I feel like that's true living. And that's really all I have to say.